Have you ever heard of a book so mysterious, so powerful, that it was removed from the Bible, silenced for centuries, and nearly lost to the sands of time? A book that speaks of angels who abandoned their place in heaven, of forbidden knowledge passed to mankind, of secret journeys to realms beyond the stars, of visions so vivid they reveal the rise and fall of empires, the final judgment, and the very end of the world. And at the heart of it all, a man who walked so closely with God that he never tasted death. A man who was simply taken. Today we're going to dive deep into the hidden story of the Book of Enoch, why it was once cherished and revered, why it was later banned and erased from most Bibles, and the secrets it still whispers across the centuries. So grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready, because we're stepping into a forgotten chapter of ancient history where the lines between earth and heaven blur, and the truth may be stranger than you've ever imagined. The mysterious figure of Enoch. Long before Moses parted the Red Sea, before David faced the giant Goliath, before the prophets thundered against kings, there was Enoch. In the Hebrew Bible, Enoch appears only in passing, almost like a shadow gliding through history. Just a few short lines in Genesis, and yet they are some of the most haunting words in Scripture. Enoch walked with God, then he was no more because God took him. Genesis 5 verse 24. No grave, no farewell, no explanation. One moment he was here, walking the earth like any other man. The next he was gone, taken by God himself. Imagine living in the ancient world and hearing this story around the fire. What does it mean to walk with God? How close must someone be to the Creator for him to take them away without death? And where exactly did Enoch go? These questions didn't vanish over time. They grew. And over the centuries, Jewish sages, mystics, and storytellers began to fill in the gaps, spinning a tapestry of visions, revelations, and heavenly journeys. They said Enoch didn't just vanish into the clouds. He was taken up, beyond the earth, into the heavens themselves. There he saw the throne of God, the armies of angels, and the hidden architecture of the universe. He was shown the secrets of creation, the future of humanity, and the ultimate judgment to come. And Enoch, they believed, wrote it all down, not just for his time but for a distant generation, perhaps our generation. From these traditions, one of the most mysterious and controversial ancient texts emerged, the Book of Enoch. A book so bold, so otherworldly, that it would one day be loved by some, feared by others, and banned from most of the world's Bibles. What's actually in the Book of Enoch? The Book of Enoch isn't just one single tale. It's like a library of mystical writings, stitched together over centuries. Most scholars believe it was written between the 3rd century BCE and the 1st century CE, a time when Jewish thought was blending with other ancient philosophies, and people were obsessed with the mysteries of the heavens. And each section has its own style, purpose, and mysteries. 1. The Book of the Watchers. This is probably the most famous part, and also the most controversial. It begins with a story that almost feels like the opening of a cosmic drama. A group of angels, called Watchers, were assigned to watch over humanity. But instead of simply guarding and guiding, they fell in love, or lust, with human women. They descended to earth, took them as wives, and fathered a race of giants known as the Nephilim. But it wasn't just forbidden romance. The Watchers also began to teach humans forbidden knowledge, skills like metalworking, weapon-making, cosmetics, enchantments, and even astrology. To us, these may sound like normal advancements, but in the context of the story, these were seen as dangerous shortcuts, corrupting humanity and throwing the natural balance into chaos. The rest of the tale describes God's judgment, sending archangels like Michael and Raphael to imprison the fallen angels and unleash the great flood to cleanse the earth. 2. The Book of Parables or Similitudes. Imagine someone in ancient times having visions of the future. a coming figure who will bring judgment, justice, and restoration. In the Book of Parables, Enoch receives 3 great visions, each like a divine movie playing before his eyes. One of the most fascinating things here is the appearance of the Son of Man, a messianic figure who sounds strikingly similar to Jesus in the New Testament, even though this book was written long before Christianity. This Son of Man is described as pre-existing before the world began, sitting on a throne of glory, judging both the living and the dead. These parables also carry heavy warnings for the wicked rulers and corrupt powers of the earth, reminding them that no matter how powerful they seem now, a cosmic judgment awaits. 3. The Astronomical Book, or Book of the Heavenly Luminaries. This section feels almost like a blend of science and prophecy. It's essentially Enoch's guided tour through the cosmos, led by angelic beings. Here Enoch learns about the movements of the sun, moon, stars, and seasons. It doesn't just describe what's visible to the naked eye, it lays out a complex calendar system, detailing how the heavenly bodies keep order in creation. The underlying message is that the universe runs on divine laws, and when humans or angels disrupt that balance, chaos follows. In a way, this is an ancient reminder that the cosmos is more than random. It's a carefully orchestrated masterpiece. 4. The Book of Dreams. If you've ever had a dream so vivid it felt real, you might understand what Enoch experiences here. In this section, Enoch recounts 2 major symbolic visions. The first is like a retelling of human history in the form of animals, each animal representing different nations and figures. The second dream is more apocalyptic, portraying the final judgment, the defeat of evil, and the rise of a renewed earth. It's a deeply symbolic and almost poetic section, where meaning is layered within meaning. Some scholars think these dream visions were meant to inspire hope to people living under oppression, reminding them that history's ending is already written by divine hands. 5. The Epistle of Enoch. This is Enoch's farewell, his final words before his mysterious departure from the world. Here he delivers a series of moral teachings, warnings, and blessings. He speaks directly to the righteous, urging them to stay faithful despite the corruption around them. And to the wicked, a final warning: your time is short. There's also a strong theme of accountability here. Enoch reminds his listeners that nothing escapes the divine record, not the smallest act of kindness, nor the smallest act of cruelty. In the end, all will be revealed. When you put all these sections together, the Book of Enoch becomes more than just an ancient curiosity, it's a vast cosmic narrative. It speaks of angelic rebellions, divine judgment, secret knowledge, and the grand order of the universe. It's part myth, part prophecy, part moral instruction, and part cosmic science lesson. And perhaps that's why it has fascinated and frightened religious authorities for centuries. The Book of Enoch wasn't always a mysterious, forbidden text hidden in the shadows of history. In fact, in its earliest days, it was considered a work of deep spiritual value, even inspired by certain Jewish and Christian communities. Archaeologists have found fragments of it among the Dead Sea Scrolls in Qumran, dating back over 2,000 years. This tells us something very important. Enoch's writings were not some fringe, underground teaching at first. They were read, studied, and copied by devout Jewish sects like the Essenes, who saw them as crucial for understanding God's plan for the world and the hidden workings of the heavens. Even in the early Christian era, the book still held a place of respect. In fact, one of the most surprising facts is that the New Testament itself quotes it. In the Epistle of Jude, just before the book of Revelation, you'll find words lifted almost directly from Enoch about God coming with 10,000s of his holy ones to judge the wicked. This means the earliest followers of Jesus saw Enoch's words as true prophecy. Some of the early church fathers, leaders and theologians in the first few centuries after Christ, also valued the book. For example, Tertullian, a well-known Christian writer from the 2nd and 3rd centuries, openly defended Enoch's authenticity. He argued that the church should not reject it simply because the Jewish religious leaders of his time did. And in Ethiopia, the respect for Enoch never faded. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church not only preserved the book but included it as part of their official biblical canon, a place it still holds to this day. This is one of the reasons we even have a complete copy of Enoch now, because while the rest of the world forgot it, Ethiopia kept it alive. So, if Enoch started out respected, quoted in scripture, and even defended by early church leaders, what happened? Why was it later cast aside, banned, and labeled heretical? The real reasons it was banned. Let's now talk about the real reasons the Book of Enoch was banned, and not just by accident but with purpose. There were spiritual, political, and theological threats buried in its pages. Let's break them down. Reason 1. It revealed too much about angels and the spiritual realm. Most books in the Bible are vague when it comes to the actual nature of angels. But the Book of Enoch lays everything out in shocking detail. It gives names to the fallen angels. It tells us what they taught humans: alchemy, astrology, weapon making, and even sorcery. This wasn't just poetic storytelling. To religious authorities, it was dangerous knowledge. Because if people start understanding how spirits, energies, and celestial hierarchies work, they might start asking questions. Questions like, why don't we learn this in church? Why were we kept in the dark? The Book of Enoch made it clear that divine rebellion is real, and that spiritual beings can corrupt, fall, and interfere with humanity. That was unsettling. It didn't fit the clean-cut image of a God who controls everything perfectly. Reason 2. It accused powerful people directly. The Book of Enoch doesn't just talk about fallen angels. It also goes after corrupt leaders, oppressive rulers, and false shepherds. It accuses them of injustice, greed, and leading the people astray. That's dangerous, because if regular people read this, they might start questioning the priests, the kings, the whole system. The Book of Enoch empowers the common person to think, if Enoch spoke out against corruption, maybe I should too. That makes it revolutionary. And dangerous to institutions that wanted obedience, not awakening. Reason 3. It didn't align with later doctrines. The theology in Enoch is older, and in many ways, it conflicts with what became standard Christian doctrine. For example, Enoch talks about judgment before the final resurrection, something that contradicts the later idea of final judgment after death. It also describes multiple heavens, something most churches never taught. There are also spiritual technologies, like portals, visions, and angelic roles, that were seen as too mystical or too Gnostic. When the early church was trying to create a unified Orthodox doctrine, this book was too wild, too symbolic, too mysterious. And instead of editing it, they buried it. Reason 4. It was too close to the truth. This one might be the most uncomfortable reason of all. What if the Book of Enoch wasn't just myth or metaphor, but a real record of what happened in the ancient past? What if it actually preserved truths that other texts tried to erase? Like the story of the Nephilim, giant hybrids of angels and humans, or the Watchers, celestial beings who broke divine law. If those stories were true, then the official narrative we've been taught about God, angels, and human history is incomplete, or worse, manipulated. And that's why some say the Book of Enoch was silenced. Not because it was false, but because it rang too true. Rediscovery and modern fascination. For centuries, the Book of Enoch vanished from the Western world. It was as if it had been swallowed by time, spoken of in whispers, referenced by ancient writers, but unseen by human eyes for over 1,000 years. Except, it wasn't truly gone. Far away in the highlands of Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church had preserved the book in its entirety, safeguarding it like a treasure in plain sight. Then, in 1773, a Scottish explorer named James Bruce returned from Ethiopia carrying something extraordinary, not relics of gold or jewels, but manuscripts, ancient, fragile pages that Europe hadn't seen for centuries. When scholars finally unrolled them, they realized this was no ordinary find. Here was a book quoted in the Bible itself. A book the early Christians had respected, read, and even preached from, yet it had been erased from almost every Western Bible. And the surprises didn't stop there. In the mid-20th century, the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in the caves of Qumran. Among the crumbling fragments were pieces of the Book of Enoch, proving without a doubt that it was one of the oldest and most influential Jewish writings, circulating long before the birth of Jesus. From that moment, fascination exploded. Ancient astronaut theorists claimed Enoch's angels might have been visitors from other worlds. Mystics and spiritual seekers saw in it a cosmic map, visions of heavenly realms, divine laws, and humanity's forgotten destiny. Historians valued it as a missing puzzle piece, revealing what Jews believed in the centuries before the New Testament. It had leapt from obscurity into the spotlight, challenging, inspiring, and unsettling those who encountered it. Why it still matters. So, why does the Book of Enoch still matter in our modern world? Maybe because it speaks to the questions we can't stop asking. Where did evil really come from? Are we alone in the universe, or have messengers been visiting us all along? If some truths were hidden for centuries, what else might be buried, waiting for the right time to resurface? Enoch forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Faith has never been static. From the very beginning, believers argued, questioned, and sometimes silenced voices that challenged the powers of their time. Perhaps that's why banned books are so dangerous and so irresistible. Because what is forbidden often reveals more about the fears of those who ban it than about the book itself. And maybe, just maybe, Enoch is whispering to us even now. There are more truths to discover, more mysteries to uncover. The story isn't finished yet. So I'll leave the question with you. Do you think the Book of Enoch should have been banned? Or does it contain truths that could still transform how we see the world today? Let's talk about it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to journey deeper into hidden books, forbidden gospels, and mysteries the church tried to erase, make sure to subscribe, turn on the bell, and check out my other videos. Thank you for walking with me into this forgotten chapter of history. Until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking. And remember, sometimes the truths we're not supposed to know are the ones that can set us free.